What's going on? I wanted to make a quick video to talk about simulation theory, guitar effects, uh, especially like some rack mount effects and subtlety in art. And, like some people know, although I don't talk about it a lot, I've shared briefly about the nirvana meditation experience that I had in 2009. And basically, I've found that one of the main reasons I don't talk about it a lot is I think just being a good, solid, like nice person. I've just gotten really sick of being taken advantage of. And for a lot of my life, I always knew when people were basically making fun of me. They just had no idea that I knew because. So anyway, the reason I bring it up is just because everything I do is highly intentional, highly specific, highly specialized. And at the same time, the only reason I even really started this channel is just because I need to have an outlet other than just making great music, because in today's society, the practice of making music has become completely cheapened. And the reality is, artists who are overly prolific, they inevitably burn out, and they burn out fast and hard. Uh, and this is an example of a dual rack mount unit here. And on the topic of subtlety, like take some of these amps, for example, when it comes to like, the reason I became a monk, and I mean like a hardcore monk, I practiced very severe austerities, and I, virtually gave up worldly life completely to work for free and lived on a shoestring for many years. So one of the things I learned was the art of subtlety it requires a massive upfront investment when it comes to time, willingness, humility, and uh, uh, a willingness to set aside what you think you know. So I'm going to turn on this amp. And this one, the Fender Princeton Reverb, to illustrate point. You can hear, like I said, I haven't been feeling great, but just the number of hours that these amps have been sitting in my spaces, uh, everything in my home and recording studio, which is I record from home, outer space. I say outer space because I've always felt like an alien. It is true in the interview that Goth Mojo Mag, that I gave up on the human race. I really did. I've certainly not given up on angels. I think there are a lot of, it's been proven that our bodies are made from stars, So when it comes to subtlety, the tone of an amp has so much more to do with the intentionality behind it, and the decades of meditation and intentionality, and the hours upon, like literally thousands, if not maybe it's probably hundreds of thousands of hours over the last like 2 decades I've spent researching. Like there are endless variations to the color black, for example, which I'm not even gonna get into my song, but subtlety is something that you can't buy, but it has a huge price tag. And what I mean by that is it just requires so much surrender of your own ideas of what is real. And that means a lot of hours of meditation, and to really become an observer of your mind, to sit and not try to stop the thoughts, because the mind is constantly generating thoughts, especially of an autistic person. And too much philosophy can drive a person crazy. It's happened to me before, so I'm careful about that. And but when it comes to, for instance, making music, it's like a gift from the heavens. And uh, one of the reasons I really lost the respect that I had for Martin Gore and Dave Gahan, it's sad, but I had to. Again, I've watched thousands of hours of interviews with them, and I'm incredibly thankful that Depeche Mode exists. And I will always consider myself, a lover of Depeche Mode. But I know from experience that art is a divinely channeled gift from God. And my job as an artist, at least the way I interpret it, is to create a space and to get out of the way where the inspiration can come. And in order to do that, I have to have a real reverence for what I call the muse. And when I say the muse, everybody has their own muse. But it's a divine thing. It's an angelic thing. And same thing with vampires. When I say I consider myself a vampire, I mean it in the most romantic way possible. Like, I think that's everything I do is very metaphorical and poetic and intentional. And I really got tired of, I've had some crazy people send me messages about really bizarre things they've interpreted from my songs. And, but I know that I have fans of my music out there. And that was what I'll jump to is, after I had that divine experience, I was 29. It lasted for 3 days. Well, I guess three or 4 days, like, and the nights, that's approximate. And basically, I'm not going to get into the exact details of how it happened, but people have had spiritual awakenings, dramatic ones, a lot of different ways. And it usually, it's either can come with a near-death experience, which for me happened 3 years after that. But the nirvana experience, I had just been praying desperately, and I was living in this horrible slum apartment with concrete floors and walls in Little Italy, and I had started meditating already. So I had been spending a lot of my time going back and forth to LA, and I was trying to teach myself guitar, and I was basically, forever the starving artist mentality. But I became desperate, because here I did what I was told to do, and I did an exceptional job, and I graduated from Vassar, and not one person in my so-called family even congratulated me. I wasn't having on good terms with really anyone. I remember I had this uncle who sent me this, if you guys remember the band The Kills, at the time I was like, so this is like 2009. I was researching, I was still working in that record store, and then the memories get kind of hazy, but I was going to a lot of like different psychic events and Buddhist temples and monasteries and churches as well, but in particular because I had studied the fundamental wisdom of the middle way, which is a brilliant work of Zen Buddhist type tradition, the Mula Dhyarmika Mahara. I know a lot of different terms in Sanskrit, but I don't. It's also very, very dangerous to go too far down the rabbit hole when it comes to like Eastern religion, because of it can get real dangerous really quickly. But so I came to become a true Christian, or realize myself as a true Christian, through the side door of Eastern religious tradition. And one of the famous quotes was, it's a whole book about like emptiness, and it's a very stoic, methodical, if you've ever heard of a Zen koan, or koan, I don't know it's spelled Koan, not moan, koan. It's basically like the same thing as Satori, spiritual Satori. It's like the Bauhaus song, Searching for Satori. And really, like, interestingly enough, David J. does live in North County, San Diego. He describes himself as like a spiritual person in that tradition as well. Like he's had his own. Then there's that record label, Samadhi Records. But yeah, so it's essentially a set of phrases or terms or words that creates an experience of kind of a stunned quietness. And I remember when I was in the presence of some of my teachers and mentors, I would just immediately, because of I was so in awe and beautifully humbled, not painfully, by this. But it was also, it was torturous in its own way, because you spend the rest of your life trying to search that experience again. But basically, it's poetic phrases from this book written by, it's an ancient text, Nagarjuna, you'd have to look it up. But he basically arrives at this conclusion that emptiness is itself empty. And that may sound like a bunch of BS, but it's not. It's very, very precise. So if you think about the exact duration of emptiness in seconds and milliseconds between each of the words that I am speaking, and you start to talk that way, you start to see and think differently. Like the famous quote that I love, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. The reality is, and then another very famous quote, Socrates, I think again, everything I know is that I know nothing. He was making way too many generalizations when he said that. When I talk about something at face value, I'm talking about like when I started studying all of this deep, virtual constructions, and I will get to the simulation theory part, I became painfully aware of how much I knew. It's like I would learn all these new words. I was really loved studying language and vocabulary. But then when it came to really knowing what a word meant or what an author meant or what a poet is meaning, the thing I love about music is the poetic nature of it. And yet at the same time, it has this sort of transcendent nonsense going on. So that's what really seduced me into analytic philosophy, that with having the right teachers. And when it comes to meditation, I started that years ago as a desperate, literally starving artist, but desperate in a good way. It's like that, what's the song, Desperate But Not Serious, Your Kisses Drive Me Delirious. So many great hits from the 80s. It's like, but anyway, I was desperate in a good way because I just, I had to find the meaning of life. I had to find a way. I needed permission to exist as an artist. That's how I would describe it. And in a weird way, I was given the gift of abandonment because I didn't have anyone or anything. For so many years, I literally barely had any furniture. So I was living like this monk before I even had the meditation experience. And my only rock was my obsession and true love with music. I'll remember, Brian Molko. There's a couple Placebo records. I haven't been able to listen to much Placebo lately because, I haven't been feeling well, but it's really deep music. And I remember talking to Brian at an event once, and I actually, Steve Hewitt friended me on Facebook. He's one of my hero drummers. I don't know if hero is the word. So many people don't understand that Steve Hewitt, the drummer, made that band what it is. And I don't share. I love that song, Taste in Men. 1999, me being in France, watching that on French MTV. It doesn't get much better than that. But I don't like the whole menage a trois, sleeping around bullshit, that way over glamorizing drugs. And I had my partying period, but look, what's that great song, Nancy Boy? There's Nancy Boy, and then there's Boys. You gotta know both songs. Nancy Boy by Placebo, and Boys by Peter Murphy and Bauhaus. It's just a brilliant work of. It has the whole gestalt, the whole vibe. It has a very German, early industrial vibe. So anyway, kind of what I'm doing is speaking in Zen koans. I'm speaking in these poetic fragments intentionally, without trying to control every single word that I say or follow each. A lot of people, they talk and think down the same paths over and over again. They just accept a lot of things as true, and if that's easy for them, that's great, but I don't want that. I don't want to be that. I'm just trying to not be judged for being myself, really, or apologize about it. So you go to those amps, these are the songs. Nancy Boy, it all breaks down to roll reversal. Got the muse in my head, she's universal. And then something else. This song starts with alcoholic kind of mood, something, I'm forgetting because I feel like I'm deliberately, I was never, I've spent time calling myself that, but I truly never liked to drink at all. I had a very, very abusive stepfather who was a raging alcoholic and cocaine addict, so was never into that. I partied in other ways, but I feel like I'm blocking this out from myself. Oh yeah, different partner, every night, all that shit. Like, that to me is not glamorous at all. But then there's the line where he says, cruising for a piece of fun, looking out for number one. And of course that means that's clear to me that his addiction and alcoholism is very different from my partying days. If anything, I partied in total isolation to get away from people, and would listen to spiritualized CDs or mini discs on repeat with my, the nicest pair of Roland studio headphones I had at the time. It was literally my only piece of gear. And I had some boxes off the street. I had the boxes of the monitors that I wanted. Even back then, 20 years ago, they don't make them like they did then. These were Roland monitors made with hardwood. So I had the boxes as my coffee table long before I ever had the actual monitors. But so there's Nancy Boy, and then there's Boys, like Rouge and Eyeline. It's all about delicacy and subtlety is the point. And to hear a clearly very masculine person with a very deep baritone voice singing this kind of really abrupt, a lot of early Gothic with industrial tinge. It has this really abrupt, kind of weird poeticism, and it really much vibes with what happens when you have a Zen koan, or a moment of satori. But what I really loved about that song was just it kind of deconstructs gender, that's the first time I heard someone sing my gender. It's skinny andro boy. It's vaguely looks like they have eyeliner on, but it's very androgynous, and it makes it almost, it's like a mantra. It's a very compelling, just a statement about what it meant to be at that time, a pretty boy, and at this time, always, forever a pretty boy. I finally stopped to give, at this point, I just take it as a compliment if people are confused about my gender or they think I'm a pretty boy. If a lot of women don't realize there are definitely benefits to being a woman. But anyways, I'm a guy. It's just a great song. Both of those songs. Nancy Boy by Placebo. Certainly not one of my favorite Placebo songs. But placebo was a huge part of my life. I'm hoping to do a DJ. I'm working on a DJ set as we speak. We're working on one, and it's gonna have some great progressive house tracks. And at some point, I would love to put, actually, somewhere in here, I have some really, really rare placebo 12 inches during the black market music. Which is my favorite. But again, black market music, Sleeping with Ghosts, Meds, those are really deep. I mean, at least they made a song about meds. I mean, I saw a great post the other day. It's this really prolific, successful creative, and he goes, if you're not on meds, I don't want you in my life. It's like finally someone appreciates. Well, I can't find it, but it's one of my plans to kind of reorganize or organize a little better my collection. But anyway, the subtlety that goes into artistic appreciation and something like a choice that you have to make quickly to put together a song and a mix. What I'm doing when I'm building my mixes now at this stage in my career, like the other day, it was pretty much the whole day was all about one song. And it can take months. It has taken years for me to be able to manifest, essentially pull down from the sky in heaven some brilliant song. But what am I doing in between? Well, that's what this subtlety is. It's the subtlety of the like literal millimeter shade tinge on this amplifier in the color of the fabric on the front of it. It has to do with the, I remember it very clearly in 2014, 2015, driving down and taking a walk on the beach in Del Mar and just dreaming about owning this amp. At the time, it felt impossible, and I was visualizing it. And this is not, so I guess what I'm saying is I have this weird thing where I'm like extremely wealthy and also broke at the same time. I'll never call myself broke again. I guess that's a bad. But my point is the hours and hours of testing that went into this specific amp, and then the years of ruminating, searching, web searching, researching, finally found the one guitar tech in like all of Southern California, I mean amp tech, who would drive to you. It's like, if you think about it, if you're an amp tech, you have to drive to the customer, because like this alone, probably weighs more than a coffin with a mafia person in it or something. I mean, what probably weighs like at least close to 200 pounds, if not more. This one's on rollers. So anyway, I finally had the amp tech come over, and I'm really particular about who I let in my home for whatever, even if they're, good vibes. And then the years I spent researching the tubes themselves. So I have one of the tubes that was original to this amp in the back drawer there. I put a vintage set of tubes in, and he spent like several hours at my place back in the day. It was at my apartment, and the goth doctor of Solana Beach, and what is it? No, the Dracula of Del Mar, whatever. He was there. And it worked out, and he did a great job, and he tried to teach me everything about the schematic and the original hand wiring, and then he also replaced the speaker that was in it. This has a C-Rex. I'm not going to say the first word. It's you'll know it if you know the one that has the Rex speaker. Eminence Rex. So, not to be confused with any serial killers or anything like that. But look at that. So basically what I'm saying is the whole patina and the whole vibe, like a very important meditation technique. I'm not even going to say exactly what it is, because it will just come to you. Again, there's another song by Actors. It will come to you. But experiencing the subtlety and a flash of inspiration, sitting and meditating and feeling feeling what is always there, but it's not accessible to you because you're just operating an incredibly low vibration. To actually really raise your vibratory rate is not something you can force. And it's like, in a lot of ways, you have to beg God to even notice you for like a decade before you can even crack the door open, because God's heart has been broken many times, and that's what people don't understand. They just treat God like, whatever crap we have, all our problems, we just throw it on him. I won't even name names, intentionally not naming names. One preacher in particular who loves to drive around in Ferraris, and the way he says it, like, oh Lord, thank you for your favor. It's literally like, it almost sounds like he's about to essay someone or something. Like, it is so creepy when he says that. I mean, and it's not, I don't know. I just, I'm like, all right, dude, take the money to buy the Ferrari, but do it from your books. And it's just, whatever. I'm not even going to say. I get sidetracked because spirituality cannot be bought. You can't run a TV station and buy a hockey rink, a former hockey rink, to transform it into your mega church and say the same 10 quotes from the Bible over and over again, while you literally won't even let one Katrina victim sleep on the floor in the stadium that you own, while you are driving a Ferrari and have your own $10 million, like something like unbelievable. Like, I was just talking the other day, some of these billionaires, they have so much stuff. It's literally almost, it would take them the rest of their life on this planet just to walk across their own damn house. That's greed, dude. Like, you can't, like, it's like a collective insanity. And that's the other thing that's really affected me, because I love learning, and I learn every day. And it's what keeps me razor sharp, learning about the subtle arts. Just how the lighting, for example, in Jim Jarmusch movies, the lighting especially the Los Angeles, the first part with Winona Ryder, Night on Earth, is just, it's divine. It's literally, he was definitely overshadowed by God himself. And I wish I heard Jim Jarmusch say that every once in a while. I'm a big fan of I don't like to say I'm a big fan anymore. I don't, what I'm saying is that I saw that movie when I was about 19 years old. I think 19. But I'm very much like that character, Winona, who's like, Winona plays, she's driving the taxi, she's zoned out. I don't listen to punk, though, post-punk, but she's kind of chain smoking, and it's just, I won't give away the ending. Definitely look it up, because it's really only like 15 or 20 minutes to the movie, and but it's everything. In the end, I am going to give it away. The woman, it's the perfect juxtaposition. And I even have a bunch of, I'm really into, anyway, I have a few wrenches on my belt, is my point. And that's what Winona's character is like, a very, there's a lot of ways in which I'm like her and a lot of ways in which I'm not. But basically this casting agent is trying to find someone who's, of legal age, and got the nerves of a paratrooper, and got the looks and everything. And she's giving this pitch, and she's basically saying, like, I'm going to make you a movie star. Like, everybody wants to be a movie star. And she's like, look, lady, like, she has to say no 3 times. She's like, I see you're sincere and all. And, I don't want to lose. Like, I'm a mechanic. Like, this is what I do. And actually, that was another one of my video art pieces. I called it, This Is What I Do. Man, I wish I still had that on video. I was basically filming and rearranging the subtitles on French New Wave films into like these poetic, satori. Again, if you really, like, nobody really thinks deeply about what words mean. But that was that should be in the damn Bible, I guess. And it was very prophetic but what people miss, I'm really not into this term collective. because I think it's a bastardization of, I'm not saying Carl Jung is Jesus or anything, or God or whatever, but there are a lot of, I really love listening to channelers, people doing tarot and all kinds of stuff, but the vast majority of it is a lot of bullshit. It is true, though, that astrology can be a science. In fact, I actually met Michael Jackson's former astrologer, and I won't get into that story at all, but he basically, I've actually studied quite a lot of astrology, horary astrology, and I've just kind of decided I've intentionally kind of like resurrected as a Sagittarius, because Aquarius moon, and I think it's like a Leo rising. But if you look at my birth natal chart, it's pretty gnarly. I had a grand trine in fire, but it was very it was something else. Definitely I've been traumatized by too much astrology. And I think is maybe what I'm getting into is simulation theory and paying attention to the subtle, like the lighting in that, in Only Lovers Left Alive. It's divine. It definitely, and I have an issue with Jim Jarmusch just taking all the credit for everything. In fact, in Only Lovers Left Alive, when he's doing the here it is. This is a song I have coming out. The cat is out of the bag. Vamp code. Not lamp code, vamp code. And then this is some lingerie. This is actually my first direct deposit